Hi, today's video is going to be with my disability session. It's going to be a recap and evaluation of the end of the block practice of possession that we've been doing with the disability group. So as you'll have seen in my previous videos, we've been talking a lot about possession because that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks and that's been our topic. So because this was our last session on this topic, we went into game scenarios. So for the whole hour session we played games. In these games we used a constraints-led approach. So we put constraints on 4 individual teams that we split up them into. Each coach had a team and they were to put the constraints onto the teams to help them develop still onto the possession, but get them to playing in games and get them thinking and using their creativity in a game situation while also keeping possession. So the team that I was given, some of the players didn't like to pass the ball, didn't really like to work as a team. So what I've seen while working with them over a long period of time, 1 or 2 were quite selfish in terms of keeping hold of the ball. They would always try and do everything by themselves instead of working as a team. So the first constraint that I put on my team for the first game was to only have 3 touches. So any more than 3 touches, the other team would get a free kick. I think this worked really well. They started to pass and they started to keep the possession really well. They scored a couple of goals, but the goals weren't our aim of the session. We weren't bothered if they scored any goals, if they scored 10 or if they scored 1. What we were looking for was that keeping the possession, making short passes, making runs, and making sure that we're making the right and correct decisions. Halfway through the game we stopped so they could have a water break and made sure that they could have sufficient rest periods all the way through. During this rest period water break, I got the team in and we spoke about what they believed they were doing well, what they were doing on the field, so whether they were keeping good possession, whether they were making the right decisions. They were coming up with the answers. I prompted with a few questions, but it was mostly a 30-second discussion by themselves with their own ideas and with their own creativity of what they needed to change and what they were doing well on the pitch. After that discussion they went back out and they tried to implement what they'd just spoken about. So one of the things they spoke about was their positioning and getting back to help to be able to win back possession. They took this into the second bit of the first game and they implemented that quite well, and they showed the progression and their creativity, their creative thought and their development as footballers as well. In the second game, the second constraint that we put on was going through gates. So they had to go either dribble or pass through a gate, which we had 2 gates on both wings, so that they had to go through before they could shoot or score. This meant that if they were attacking and they'd gone too far past the gate, they would have to come back through the gate and work backwards before going forward. As a term of a football concept, this works really well, so they were learning just through the constraint that sometimes it's okay to come backwards to keep hold of possession and to make sure that we still keep hold of that ball. Once again, halfway through the constraint game, we brought them in. They had a 30-second discussion on what they were doing well, how they think the session was how they thought the game was going, what they could work on in improving to keep possession, and if there was anything they needed to change during the game. So they took through. Again, it was their own ideas. They were coming up to make sure that they were thinking, and it was their development. They were taking their own initiative. So we took this and they carried on in the second half, and once they discussed and talked, you could see that they were thinking about what they were doing, and they were thinking that if I made this run then I can receive the ball and keep possession, which was really nice to see. as they showed that they were taking everything that we've been trying to teach them in the previous sessions, in the block practice sessions of possession. They've taken a lot from that and have started to see the benefit of keeping hold of the ball, and in terms of working forward as a team instead of just trying to take on everyone themselves. The third and last game constraint that was put on them was an overhead height rule. This was to stop the long high balls that a lot of the players try to play, especially the goalkeepers. The goalkeepers try and get it upfield as far as possible, and most of the time it goes straight to the goalkeeper, straight from the other goalkeeper. So this was something we were working on. They kept the ball down nicely. It went overhead a few times. At the half-time mark, at the middle of the game, again we brought them in for 30 seconds and they had the discussion and spoke about what they were doing well, and they spoke again about their movement, and if I move to this certain place then I can retain possession. The session worked really well. It was a great way to cap off the end of the topic. It was a new way that we've looked at doing things, so a block style for a couple of weeks to get them used to the topic. I think the block practice style for the disability group has worked really well, because it means we can go over and over and over and repeat the processes that they need. So we spent a few extra weeks than we were expecting to do on possession, but then the final result that we saw when we did a bit of random and a bit of game scenarios with constraints in that last session, you could see the development and the progress from where they were at day one to now is a fantastic and quite a big change in the passing and the possession and things like that. So that's really pleasing to see, and we've seen that this method of training them, so blocking to random and game scenario, has worked really well. So we're going to take that into our next topic and our next group of sessions. We're looking at, once again, just like we did for possession, to do 4 weeks. But due to the nature of block practice, if it takes longer, that is fine, because we're looking at the technique and the technical side that we want to progress first before we put them in a game scenario to get that creativity flowing again. So taking this into consideration, one of the things that we want to work on, it's not going to be our full topic, but it's kind of a half topic, a kind of a little bit of a topic. It is the control of the ball when they receive it, and then what to do with the ball. Some of the players still get a little bit nervous when in possession, so we're going to block practice as a starter activity, as a warm-up. We're going to block practice skills corridor, which is a great activity for the players to get as many touches of the football as possible, gets them moving, gets them dribbling, and also can be used to get the players thinking in crowded situations, which a game situation could be. So we're going to block practice that and hopefully improve our control, and then that's going to be with our bigger topic as well. So that's the end of the possession topic. The possession topic worked really well. We've found a method of coaching that we believe is going to work. We're going to try it with our next topic and to see if it will work for every topic. If not, we'll find another coaching style to try and coach them. That's one thing with disabilities. From each topic to topic and each week to week, your coaching style could need to be adapted. You've got to be versatile and be adaptable as the dynamics in the environment in disabled sport changes quite often. So look out for my next video on my disability session, and thank you very much for watching.